Welcome to Ask Me Anything, featuring spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White.
Hi, I'm spiritual medium Kellee White, and this is Your Superior Self.
Kellee White, the great and powerful Kellee White. Thank you so much for joining the show.
You're very welcome. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, I've been watching you and I easily become a fan. You're just
thank you.
so easy to talk to. I'm excited about where this is going to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by your story though, because like you weren't always a medium, right?
I was not always a medium. No, I
How'd
think
that
I
come
was.
about?
Well, and I get asked this question a lot. So I know that I was very psychic growing up, but it never would have occurred to me you're going to be a medium. That wouldn't have even been in my thought process, because I was a business person. I was a senior vice president of a large food corporation. I worked really hard to get there. I mean, my background is I was a chef, and I would never have thought of doing anything other than what I really loved, which was designing menus and selling menus all over the country and all over the world. My territory was international and national. So I was busy on planes and busy traveling and loving my life. And then fate stepped in, as fate always does step in. And I had a traumatic brain injury in 2000, in the year 2000, in August of 2000, so 21 years ago. And when I had this traumatic brain injury, what happened is I was literally stepping into my car. I should back up and say that I had been out of the country for 6 weeks, so that my time, I was a little disoriented. And when I got into my car, as I was getting into the car, I smashed the front of my head and blacked out. And not knowing that the significance of what had happened, I didn't know that my life was completely over at that moment and a new life was about to begin. And I had no way of knowing this. All I knew was that I felt this blood rushing through my brain. But at the time, I was a single parent. I was a really hard worker. I had business to do. I would never have thought the significance of hitting my head, which was a real traumatic brain injury. It was the same injury that Natasha Richardson had, and she died like 17 hours later of the same injury. So I knew that, I mean, now I know. At the time, I didn't know what was happening. All I knew is that I had to figure out my life, what was happening to me, because from that moment on, things began to change rather quickly. And to make a long story short, I then later I started seeing dead people. Everywhere I went, I saw dead people. And that was very alarming initially, very alarming, because I didn't know what was happening to me. And at the time I thought, I didn't even know the term schizophrenic. Am I schizophrenic? Like, what's happening, And my mother was a really well-known psychologist in Beverly Hills, which is where I was from, for 45 years. And when all of this happened, it was my mom that was able to say, no, honey, you're not schizophrenic. You're having, an anxiety, this or that. Whatever she said to me, it calmed me down enough. But then I found out that her father, my mother's father, had been a physical medium, and mediumship ran in my family for generations, which I did not know. And on top of that, when I was really, really young, when I was about 3, I had encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain. So my brain was always being formed to become a medium, because the 3 ways that I know that somebody becomes a medium is through, somebody in your family was a medium, through an illness, or through a head injury.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, those are about the 3 ways. I mean, it usually has to run in the family. There's some sort of connection. And the other thing is this: when you are a medium, you have practiced this in order to have cataclysmically begun. It was hit in the head. I'm seeing dead people. What happens now? That would mean that in many, many lifetimes, I had been a practicing medium. I had been a psychic or medium in many, many lifetimes in order to hit the ground running as hard as I have with this.
Man, that's amazing.
I
What,
know.
what was the first, I guess, person that you saw that you realized, well, you shouldn't be here?
It's a great question. You're going to love this. So again, here's my background. I was living at the beach, single parent. I have this horrific head injury. I can't work any longer. I lose my very well-paid job. I don't know what I'm going to do. I was at UCLA for weeks trying to get help for my brain injury, and we decided not to do surgery. We decided medication. And I mean, it was all of these things that were going on at the same time, because at the same time I had to learn how to walk and talk and see and hear, and I'm seeing dead people. So it was a lot. So what happened at one night, I was on my balcony and just literally I had this memory, and I had forgotten about this. When I was 21, I went to India. And when I was in India, this man came up to me and he said, "Can I read your thumb?" I'm like, "Can you read my thumb? I'm 21, you know." I don't know if you've ever heard about these people, but in India, they're famous for this. They take your thumb and they read it and they look at your Akashic records. And this guy said this following to me. I didn't have my passport, so there's no way he could have known my name. He had my first and last name, my mother's first and last name, my boyfriend at the time's first and last name. And then he started talking about all of these things, talk about getting my attention. And he said to me, "You were a famous medium in India." And he said, "In this lifetime, you're going to decide if that's what you're going to be." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You're going to decide. You're going to have a time in your life where you're going to decide yes or no, you're going to be a medium." So now I'm on my balcony. I'm looking at the ocean and I start screaming out to God. I said, "What the do you want me to do? Do you want me to be an effing medium? Like, what do you want me to do?" And that evening, after I screamed that out loud, I walk outside to the balcony and I see this woman, beautiful older woman. I'm going to say she's late 70s, early 80s. Beautiful. She was wearing a St. John's knit outfit, and I'll never forget it because it was something that I had always wanted to buy, but they were really expensive, like $2,000 an outfit. And I know. So I see this woman. She's out there smoking, right? She's smoking and she's looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and I'd never seen her before. And I was like, I just waved, and then she went like this. She waved back. She waved. I waved. Every night I go out to my balcony and I see this woman dressed in a St. John's knit, different outfit every single night. I said, "What is this?" So then one weekend, my sister came over, my sister, the non-believer, and she comes over and she said, "You know, they're selling that condo next door. Let's go take a look." I said, "Okay." So we go over to this condo and I said, "That's odd. That's my balcony." I said, and the place was empty. And I said, "Where's the woman?" To the guy that was packing things up, I said, "Where's the woman that lives here? I have to say hello to her. She's always dressed so beautiful with St. John knits." And he said, "Well, that's my mother, but she passed away 9 months ago." And he said, "She always wore St. How would you know that?" And I said, and then I was
I just saw her yesterday.
I, I I started saying, "I saw her every night smoking." And he said, "Well, she died of lung cancer."
Oh,
It's
wow.
like, no shit. I said, "Oh, okay." And I was like so taken. And then my sister's like, "Come on." So you have to understand, my sister was very against this. She was
Sure.
the anti-medium person in
Mhm.
my family. And she was like, "Stop talking. They're going to think you're crazy." So I had to
Mhm.
go through that adjustment of who can hear it, who can't hear it. But it was from that moment on that I started seeing it. I was flooded with
Wow.
seeing people, and you're never alone. So if you walk in a room, it will be your mother, your father, your grandparents, your spirit guides, your angels, friends from high school. You'd be floored who shows up.
Really?
You just never know. You're never alone.
How long did you make that transition of like not telling anybody about it until like
Oh,
now you have a
great
radio
question.
show?
Great question. This is really funny, but it was James Van Prague, my best friend, who said,
James
"I'm outing
John
you."
Pro.
Yeah,
I'm
James
outing
Van
you.
Prague, "I'm outing you." And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Oh yeah, honey, I'm outing you. This is enough. You're here to be a medium." And If it wasn't for him, I probably would still be not, you know, I had to get real comfortable with who I am and what I do. And the other thing is, years later, when I was 52 years old, actually, I went back to grad school. And I'm really
I love
proud of
this
that
story. I
because
love this story.
it's a really, you can do anything at any age. You have not missed a boat. I mean, and I felt as a medium, it wasn't enough because I feel that when people come to see me as a medium, they need some real grounding here. I need to know what's going on psychologically with them, because I could say a message, or anybody who's a medium could say a message that sets them on a place that they, oh no, for the rest of their life they're going to be up thinking about this. I can't have that. So I actually teach therapists who are budding mediums how to work with this. And then I teach mediums how to be therapeutic in their approach, because I think it's both on both ways. And as the world matures spiritually, we're going to see a combination of mediums that are therapists and therapists that are mediums, because it's kind of, to me, it's the next evolution
Sure.
of life.
Yeah,
So
that's
I went
interesting.
back at 52 for grad school, and it was the greatest thing I ever did.
For psychology, right?
For psychology, yeah. So I'm
Counseling.
also I'm a licensed psychotherapist. And initially my practice was very, I didn't tell anybody. And then the word got out anyway, because I would see certain people for mediumship and then certain people for just, psychology. And then I just said, oh, who the hell with it? I can't just keep up this ruse.
Sure.
This is who I am. And then, what happened is certain people would find my business cards and they would say, like, I think, what did I have on there? I don't know, spiritual therapist, or I don't know, whatever. They said, and then one of them actually said, are you a medium? I said, yeah, I am. He said, good. I've been looking for a good medium. It was pretty funny. So
I'm looking
it's
for
been
a
a
good
funny,
medium.
funny story. Yeah, it's been a fascinating adventure.
I love the psychology part. I'm going back for school, and I love psychology. Like, I just love it. I love the
Are
idea
you
of it.
going back for psychology,
Well, I'm
or was
minoring
it
in
business?
psychology. It's business. Um, majoring in business, minor in psychology, but I want to go to graduate school and I want to get my degree, or my license in counseling. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I just love it.
Well, it's a great thing to have because you learn so much about yourself with it too. And in business, there are some actually great programs for psychologists and psychotherapists that work in corporations.
Yep.
And that kind of combination is really important too.
Yeah. But
Business world has to
yeah,
wake up
business world
spiritually.
needs, yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like, I'm
Mhm.
very much plugged into the spiritual world, like what your work is. Like, I love that near death experiences, out about experiences, things like that, spirituality, like connecting with the one.
Have you
Just
had any yourself?
No, I have not. I've been following Bob Monroe and his work, his trilogy, Tom Campbell.
Oh, I love Tom Campbell.
Tom
Have you taken
Campbell's
his classes?
No, I have not.
Get out.
I have his binaural beats. He came on the show. We had a
Okay.
conversation.
I
We
love
stay in
Tom.
touch. Yeah, he's great. So
One of the
I'm
wisest people
Oh
that
my
will ever
gosh.
be on our planet,
Yeah,
that
like,
is
just
incarnated with the greatest wisdom. I took a 5-day course with him,
mhm.
and James Van Prague and I both took it together. In the first hour, James said, "This is too much for me." I said, "What? Come on, we signed up together. You asked me to take the damn class."
What was too
And
much about it?
well, it's a lot. Some of it is a lot of left brain thinking.
Hmm.
And but what James did get out of it was extraordinary. And he quotes Tom all the time, and he loves Tom to death, but he couldn't sit still. That's the thing. You have to do the binary beats and you sit still for a few days, at like 5. But God, if you get an opportunity to take his class, do
Yeah.
it. He's the bomb. I love him.
What did you experience there? Like, did you
I
get out of
experienced
body?
something. Well, I'm used to doing that, but I'll tell you a wild thing that happened. And I did share this with the class and with Tom. um, Out of the blue, I heard, so you have these binary beats, and it puts you in another state of consciousness. And I found myself with, all of a sudden, I don't know how to explain this. I'll just say it the way it happened. A horse appeared, and this horse appears and starts talking to me as if just like we're having a dialogue. And he said, I'm alone. I'm feeling very upset. And he actually used very specific words about how he was feeling, and he had to get out of there.
Hmm.
And I said, well, I'll help you, but I don't know where you are. So he starts telling me all of these things. I'm actually having a conversation with Horse, and I'm in another state of mind, let alone another state. I finished with that. An hour later, I'm on a break, lunch break, and my phone rings, and it's a girlfriend of mine. And she says, Kellee, I don't know what to do. I've got my horse and I've got it. I said, what? Wait a minute. Your horse? What does he look like? What? I said, Sue, you're never going to believe this. Your horse came to me and was telling me everything, and you've got to find a place for him. And she said, well, I don't know another place. So then another friend called, and long story short, we got this horse moved out of that place to a better place. And it was all from that moment. So I don't know how this works. I don't know how to explain how any of this works, but I learned that there's a lot about telepathy that goes on with him, with his work. And the other thing that he does that I had never done before is remote viewing. And that was kind of fascinating. Did he talk about
No,
that?
he talks a little bit about that. I'm still trying to understand it, where you kind of use your, I guess, ability to.
It puts you in that frame of mind, right? You're in that frame. And then he says you just go to wherever it is. And there are these things that you Google the spots. I forget how it works. I did it. It does work. I was kind of astounded what I saw. So it's
Tell
anyway.
me, what'd you see?
Well, I ended up on Mars. I'm like, what? And I started seeing these different landing points of different people that were there, like kind of keeping watch on whatever is going on. So I actually said, well, I guess there are people on Mars that are already there.
So
it's really what I thought.
This is so interesting because Bob Monroe, have you read his books, his trilogy at all?
I haven't. I'm sorry I didn't.
Such a beautiful writer. Such a beautiful writer.
He was a fascinating human being.
Yeah, absolutely. Businessman. Very, very.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Like the one thing Tom Campbell talks about was like, when he first read his first book, he was like, is this guy an imposter just trying to make money? And then he shows up at his house and he's like, this guy doesn't need any more money, and this is a subject you don't typically put out there unless you're interested in it. But does those experiences at all, like, are they in relation to what you do? Like, do you find evidence of that when in your field of work? Like, are they parallel, or are they just totally different? Like, how does that work?
Well, as far as do I find
like evidence, I guess.
Evidence. Well, I'm an evidential medium. And so when somebody comes to me, I give proof that somebody's passed away, that they're here. Things that I couldn't know in my wildest dreams. And names, dates. I'm very good with names. Names seem to come easily through to me. The way they die often. I seem to specialize in suicide, of people who've crossed over from that. And I just give a lot of evidence. It just comes in. I get very still. The information comes in and I provide evidence. So I know that it all exists because I see the miracle of it every single day of my life.
How does it make you feel? Like,
great.
Yeah.
I always love it. Some make me sad. Sometimes I get sad and sometimes I get really happy. When I work with people, loss of children, that's a hard one for me. That one is a tough one. And I'm fortunately mature enough to be able to hold on to the energy and hold on to the space for the mothers and the fathers that have lost children. And I very carefully hold their hearts. I mean, when I say hold their heart, very carefully. And I help them through, because I feel that the souls, when children are lost, when they pass over, that they only signed up. So we have an agreement before we incarnate of how long we want to be here. That soul may have only signed up for 3 years. The parents would have made the agreement, okay, the soul only needs to be there for 3 years, or the soul needs to be here for 16 years or 12 years or 8 years or whatever it happens to be. And I always say, if God came to me and I tell all the parents this and said, look, Kellee, I need you to do me a favor, I'd be like, no, go, no, I can't do that one. But the people that do it, and it's men and women who do this, they're my heroes because they have allowed a soul to come in to express itself for a small amount of time. And what happens is when that happens, it teaches the parents and everybody around them about love and compassion and faith and all of these things. And the only reason we incarnate here is for compassion, empathy, kindness, faith, love, joy. That's it. And this is a hard school to go to. And
Oh
so
my
anybody
God,
who
it's the
goes, this
hardest.
is the hardest school of all. If you sign up for this school, you come back over and over to evolve, and you come back to this particular school because this school has black and white in it, and it has, darkness and light in it. It has evil and good. It has
Mhm.
everything to help your soul learn, to grow and expand.
Now, mediumship, right? Like you see people, energy, you see people
Colors, I
that
see auras.
colors. Do
Mhm.
you help other people, like let's say people that aren't looking to connect with a loved one? Do you help them progress in this life?
Oh, absolutely. So people come to me. It's a great question. So if they don't come to me for mediumship, they might come to me for a soul reading. They may come to me. And so what I do is I work with a birth date, usually helps open that door for me. And then I go, okay, this is why you incarnated. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Let's just sum it up. And then from there, I can help them move through blocks of whatever's been blocking them or whatever trauma. I also specialize in trauma. And one of my partners, Dr. Shirley Pelizzeri, Shirley and I had a show for years, and we do webinars on trauma. And trauma often blocks somebody from moving forward. So I work a lot with that. So yeah, so if they come to see me, sometimes it's for spiritual counseling, and I'll just say, all right, what do you want to know? Where are you? And I'll go, okay, here we go. So
Hmm.
usually it's been my experience when somebody has a session with me that they get what they need. I want to make sure that everybody gets what they need here. And it's like a gentle way of, come on, let's go, keep going. Don't slow down. It's okay. And I feel that now during this particular time that we're in with 2021, 2020, and 2021, in 2019, I did a radio show with James Van Prague, and I said to him, 2020, it's going to be a year that we will never forget. It's going to be pretty bad, James. It's going to be, and I thought it was terrorism. And I said, it's going to change our life. It's going to this, that, it to the point where he was like, all right, stop already. And I couldn't stop myself. I saw it so clearly of what was going to happen. And I didn't know pandemic, but I thought something is huge going to happen. Was to the point where people were like, all right, Kellee, shut up, stop, you're scaring me. I mean, went on and on. So 2021, we know what happened in 2020. It was really about going inward. It really discovering who you are. It stopped everybody in their tracks. It had to. 2021 is going to be about, it's a little different. It's going to be a lot of explosive energies. It's going to be battle of the old karmic ways of doing things with the new age of Aquarius, new ways of doing things. It's going to be more collaboration and community and social justice as opposed to the old Capricorn ways. So we're going to see all kinds of things. And anybody who incarnated during this time and is still here with us wanted to be here. So it will grow our souls 7 times more to be here during this time of this great awakening.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, because I hear a lot of like people that are here. There are a lot of like I guess they call them messengers or they call them
Hmm.
I guess people that are trying to help the overall consciousness get a little bit more, I guess more development.
Yes.
And I meditate quite a bit in the morning, and I become very spiritual in my growth and try to help that consciousness. I just started meditating where I'm going
Hmm.
inward because it was always a mystery. Like all the
Hmm.
mystical texts, all the great books said you have to go within. And I'm like, well, how do
Yeah.
you do that? I'm like,
What
how
does
do I
that
go
even
within?
mean?
Go within. I would love to go within. You just tell me how. There's, of course, as a human, I want to know the guide, the map. But I've started
As
to
a male too.
yeah, right. But I feel like I can channel my
Hmm.
higher self a little bit. I
Hmm.
feel like I can talk to that. And then I feel like I'm having conversations with God, whatever this source is.
Hmm. Right.
I
I
remember,
use the term God.
um, I feel like it is God. I feel like it is God. And then, but I feel like that is a part of me that is connected with Him. So it's like I don't know if it's my higher source or God, but I'm sitting when I'm meditating. I'm sitting on a mountaintop with Him, and it's not a person. It's like a energy source. It's like a gold, yellow, or not. I guess a gold, white ball of
Mm-hmm.
energy. And I'm speaking to it, and I'm basically saying, and it's for it's not a long time. It's a very short. I'm like, God, there is a lot of suffering. And He's like, yes, there is. Or he or she, whatever, the energy. Um, and I'm like, well, how do I help the suffering? And he's like, use your voice. I'm like, use my voice. And I guess he's talking about the podcast. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm the guy to do that. Like, I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
I need help. And he's like, I'll give you all the help that you can afford. And then that, boom, I'm done. Like, I can't maintain that awareness for that long because it's so powerful. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you're
And you
connecting with this
got
higher
what you were
source.
told.
Yeah.
You got that what you were needed to hear.
Yeah. But I mean, there is a lot of suffering out there. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lot of people that want to do good, like you, including yourself and James. I mean, you guys have a fantastic podcast or radio
Thank you.
show that I find truly entertaining, one, and very educational. You guys have a good
Thanks.
like chemistry, like you guys just vibe
Well, he's
very
my
well.
best friend. So, and you know how we come up with our topics is we talk every day and we'll be talking about this and he was in his garden the other day and he said, oh, he called me. He said, he FaceTimed me from his garden and he said, look at my garden. It's just the most miracle of life. Look, isn't it a miracle how we go from season to season? And I said, why don't we do a show on that? The miracle of life. Yes. So this is how our shows evolve. We always have had deep conversations, and because we're, I'm blessed to have him in my life. Frankly, very blessed. But I know it was a result of many, many lifetimes that we've shared together with the same wanting to help others. And when this happened, when 2020 started in March, picked up the phone. I called her. I said, honey, we have to do something. We have to do something. This year, as I've predicted, is going to be really rough and people are going to get very, very down. So we have to do something. I said, and you're the most famous of all. You really have to get out there. And he goes, okay, honey, I'll do it. What do you want me to do? And I go, do a show every day. He did a show every day until he got pretty tired. And it's exhausting.
It is
But then
exhausting.
now we do the show together on Monday nights, and then he does a show on Monday, and I do the show on Thursday. And it's really great because the world is going to need help right
Yeah.
now.
Where can they find that? Just a quick
They
plug.
can find us on, let's see, the show is called Both Sides Now and Beyond with James Van Praagh and Kellee White. And that's on Monday nights at, let's see, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And that's on YouTube channel, James Van Praagh YouTube channel, or on Facebook Live on James Van Pragh's site on Facebook or my site, Spiritual Medium Kellee White. So we do both Facebook, I get them mixed up, Facebook and YouTube. That's
awesome.
where they can find us. And if you can't catch us live, you can always watch the
Yeah, I've been
anytime.
watching you on YouTube. It's great.
It's fun, right?
It is fun. You
We
got
laugh
nice
a lot
energy.
and it's good energy and it makes people feel good and they learn
Yeah.
a lot about spirituality. And James's big thing has always been to dispel fear, that there's either fear or love. And people have a great fear of death. Number one is public speaking, believe it or not.
Sure.
But number two is fear of death. And I hope that when we give this evidence that they understand, that people understand that there's no such thing as death, that when the soul leaves, the soul goes home to the other side and there's a meet and greet and they're just so happy to be there. I mean, it's a whole deal that goes on. And then, and the soul will come back and visit. And
it's so interesting. So how, did your interactions with the other side, give you this evidence? Did they talk about this with you? Is that
oh
how?
yeah, they've talked about everything that goes on.
Because
And my
I've
guides.
found out near-death experiences through my research through Ray Moody and
Raymond Moody was the best.
Yeah. You being a psychologist, right? Like Raymond Moody's awesome.
Psychotherapist.
He's he's the man.
He was.
But your dealings with the other side has brought forth that evidence for you.
Yes, it's brought a lot of evidence to me. It tells me a lot. Here's another thing that happened. we all have spirit guides, and most of us, all of us have one. We're never alone. We, at least all of us have one, but most of us, some of us have two. Lately, during COVID, I have seen people have 3 and 4 guides for different various reasons. The reason I bring this up is I actually got to see my spirit guides. I was in Tahiti, actually, on an island with no electricity, and they appeared with my physical eyes. It never happened before, and it's a whole story about how it happened, but it was a shock to my system. I thought I was going to have a heart attack, actually. When somebody appears to you and manifests, it's a little frightening.
So, like, what do you mean manifest? Like, were you
Just
meditating?
physically, no, I was asleep. I
Hmm.
was asleep, and I had to go to the bathroom. I was with my boyfriend at the time, and I said, and it was pitch black. And I said, "Oh, it's really weird. I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. That just never happened to me." And I said, I have to." And I said, "We have to get the lantern." And he said, "Oh, okay, you know." And this guy was the head of a large corporation, and he didn't have any belief in this, in spirits or spirit guy. He wouldn't have known to even say this. But anyway, I get up, and before he could grab the thing to the little lighter, before he could grab it, I look up and there's an Indian man from India floating 3 feet above me, just in an outfit
You didn't go to
with
the
a big
bathroom by
smile.
yourself, because I would have
Yeah.
definitely,
Well,
wet
I
myself.
actually, you would have. And I started screaming hysterically bloody murder. And my boyfriend is saying, "There's nobody here. What are you talking about? There's nobody here." And I'm like, "Ah!" And I'm like crazy, like a crazy animal. I'm crazy screaming. And big smile and radiate so much love. And if I shut my eyes or opened them, they were still there. And they really wanted me to see them. And he was there for 90 seconds. And I actually I just fainted. And when I came to, I had a beautiful woman guide there that was just phenomenal and big radiant of love. And all I can say is I'm screaming, and then she leaves, and my boyfriend says, "Darling, you were so mean. Those were your spirit guides."
You're so
And I
mean.
said, "Yeah, those are my spirit guides." I mean, they had to have put that in this lunkhead's head. He would never have said that. So nobody came to get us, and I'm screaming we're on a little hut. It was meant to be. I mean, they really made this happen. So from my guides, they're the ones that have taught me about life review. They've taught me about what it's like to be a spirit guide. They've taught me about what life is like on the other side. They've taken me on journeys on the other side. So I am very clear about what goes on and who's there and what goes on and the limitless possibilities of it. So I've had my own experiences of it. And then when I work with different people, every day I learn something else from another
Sure.
person or another guide or something like this. I work with a healer whose name is Prajna Avalon, and she's wonderful. And I have a session with her every other week. Should have her on. She's great.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
she's terrific. She lives in Brazil right now, but she is just a phenomenal healer. And I was having a healing session with her this week. And out of the blue, my grandfather showed up
Hmm.
on my father's side, who was not a medium. And he'd passed away 45 years ago. And I was very surprised. And this is what he said to me. He said, thank you for paving the way for me to incarnate.
Wow.
Which is a big statement because it meant that the work I'm doing is going to help him incarnate at some point soon. And he came from Russia, and he was 17, in 1900 and something. And he came over, and how brave he had to have been to pave the way for me to be here. And so I thought, wow,
Wow.
I've never
Wow.
heard a soul say that before. So I learn things every day,
Sure.
every day.
Wow, that is powerful. What
Yeah.
you said going on the other, they've shown you the other side. Like what?
Mhm.
Well, besides
Oh my God,
that,
it's
but like,
unbelievable. The big libraries, giant libraries, like the kind where you get lost in it, and that yet you know where you're going. I don't know how to, beautiful libraries, lots of places where people go to gather to have concerts. I've seen parties. They love to have parties over there. A lot of parties. I'm not allowed to go in, but I see them and they won't let me in. It's the damnedest thing ever. I've tried to poke my way around. I've just seen it's beautiful. The colors, we don't even have colors to describe the colors. And I love color. These colors, I can't even get the color. It's so like miraculous, these colors. And did you ever see the movie What Dreams May Come?
Yes.
It's that kind of
That.
like that. There's another movie you should see. What is the name of it? It was a Brazilian movie about souls. Golly, what was the name of that? About what happens when you pass away and you go through, and it was very accurate. Something about put Brazil and soul movie, Soul movie. It was something phenomenal.
I just watched the Soul Disney Soul movie.
Oh yeah,
That was
wasn't that
that
good?
was good. Yeah, I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
can get
love
with
the
this.
fact that they use a jazz musician.
I know, right? I
I thought
know,
that
and
was
he's
great.
so good. And then he falls in a man
I
cover.
know, and then they let him come back.
Yeah,
So that was
yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
That
but
was
it was
interesting.
good. It was good. I'm
I'm
glad that
surprised that
Disney
Disney
did
did
it.
that. I'm surprised they did
Me
that.
too. But we're making some breakthroughs now.
Absolutely. I mean,
It's
that's why we're
not the
here.
same shame thing that we used to be, I don't think. And now I don't, it's funny. I live in a small town now from Beverly Hills. It's hysterical. And I don't care if somebody knows what I do, they don't do. I really don't care anymore. I mean, you
Mm,
get to a point where you just don't give a crap. You just are who you are. You do what you need to do and
sure.
you live your life. And so it's very interesting. So having said that, I think that the soul reference, now people are opening up to spirituality. Disney opened up
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. I mean, the feeling that I feel like with my spirituality, I love the encounters that I have when I go within, when I have my meditations.
Hmm.
So much that I've cut back on drinking. Because during
Yep.
COVID lockdown pandemic, like, I mean,
Oh, tell
kids,
me. I love
like
my
I
glass
was
of wine.
exactly like I was
Hmm.
drinking more beer. I had gained the COVID-15, and
Oh, I hear you.
I started meditating more and trying to go within and
Good.
find out. And then like I started
Good.
reaching, different levels of I guess the other side, non-physical. And um Christina
It's a
Rasmussen.
journey.
I don't know if do you know her, Christina Rasmussen? She wrote
Mm-mm.
Where Did You Go? And she talks
Mm-mm.
about going and lifting the veil and connecting with your loved ones that you've lost. And
Oh,
I had
good.
I had an aha moment with her book, and I was like, man, I'm not stopping. So like, now that I continue to do my meditation, like I just have this great feeling. Like I don't want to mess with my consciousness. Like I want to wake up every
Right.
morning the best that I can to
And you
connect.
should have a session with Prajna. It would be good for you.
Oh my
You would
goodness.
actually like it.
That
It'd
kind of
be
worried me
amazing.
though. Like it scares me a
Why?
little bit, not because it's like woo woo or nothing, but like,
Oh,
like my like I was talking to who was this? Marianne Boer.
I love
Marianne.
Marianne.
Yeah,
In fact, Prajna's in Marianne's book.
really.
Hmm.
And she was like, Trey, you need to have a session. And if she's listening right now, shout out to you, Marianne. You're the best.
Love
Um,
Marianne.
she's like, you need to have a session, a reading. I'm like, Marianne, I'm scared to have a reading. She's like, why? I was like, what if they tell me something I don't want to hear? Like, you know what I mean? Like with the podcast, like I want the podcast to be successful and push me in a different direction in life. And I want to create my reality. And I want this to be a big stepping stone for me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what if they tell me it's going to flop? You know what I mean? Like that, it scares me a
I
little
don't
bit.
think anybody's going to say that. I think that nobody
But
would say that.
I know they wouldn't say that, but what if like I don't want false hope either. I don't want people to be
Hmm.
like, "Oh, this is gonna be huge," like, and then I'm like,
I think
well,
you should believe in yourself. Truly believe in yourself. But what Prajna's work is not about as a medium. Her work as a healer, she goes into the template, if you will, and she's just an extraordinary healer. And she works on whatever the guides are telling her to work on. Could be fear in your case.
mm,
It could be expectation. It could be, I don't
sure,
know,
it could be
if
attachments.
attachment,
Yeah,
whatever it is, really does make a difference in your spiritual growth. I find it really does make a difference. And you don't have
that's
to go have a
interesting. That's
reading.
yeah. That's interesting. Well, I love readings now. But it was my initial fear. Like
Mhm,
I just find that because my energy rises when I speak with
mhm.
somebody about my truth. Like when I truly like when I'm speaking with you right now, like you and I are very. I don't know. I feel like we're similar and we have similar interests, and my vibration raises, and I feel good when I speak to you. And the same
Oh,
thing.
good.
I I had a conversation with another medium, and it was just a great conversation. Like it just, it just raising your vibration. And
Well, that's what a good medium does. A good spiritual person does that. They want to make you feel good and they get your energy going. And that's really how life works. And the other thing about energy is a really great thing is it will continue to flow and flow and flow. And alcohol will stop that. It does stop that.
absolutely. Like it messes with you, like clarity.
It does mess with you. It truly does, and then, I mean, I know a lot of people, I'm not vegan, but I'm pretty close to it. That really helps too.
Sugar too.
I mean,
sugar. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
I need to
don't do
clean my
sugar.
act. I got 3 kids, and I find myself
Oh,
eating
wow.
Chick-fil-A quite a bit. I need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
It's interesting though that so the healer, right? And she's in Brazil. How did you find her?
Well, she was in Marianne Bohr's book,
Oh, okay.
and then I had her on my show, Both Sides Now TV with Dr. Shirley, and I just fell in love with her. I thought, boy, she's such a great healer. She graduated from the Barbara Brennan School of Healing in Massachusetts. So she lived in Massachusetts for 20 years, and she actually later worked with Amma. If you know who Amma is, the hugging saint, a very famous saint in India. And she lived on the ashram for quite some time. And then recently she's moved to Brazil. And I only say this because her healing abilities can be done anywhere. And she's a phenomenal healer. So I really encourage everybody to have a session with her. I just love her work. And you feel so good afterwards.
Refreshed and energized.
You do feel refreshed, and then and it really does put you back in a spiritual place. I mean, I see several people in a day, and I work really hard. So a couple times a month, I do every other week. I have a session with her because it's just important for me to remember. Stop, slow down, clear yourself out. Here we go again, because this is a long year. Last year was long. This year is long.
Well, where do you see yourself going this year? Like, what is your mission? I know
it's a great question. I'm finishing my book because I have to finish it. Taking off the next week for a week to finish the book. I finished it, and apparently my editor said good news is I know how to write. Bad news is I have more stuff to do. So I have to finish that. So number one priority is finishing my damn book, getting that out there. I've only been working on it for 10 years. So I have to do that. And just doing a show with James. I mean, I'm not sure where it's going to take us, but I love working with James, and I love doing my own show on Thursday. It's called Ask Me Anything, and I like that. So I love the work I do.
What do they ask you on there?
Oh my gosh, they ask me about the other side. They ask me, do their loved ones, how do they see a sign if their loved ones are here? I had somebody ask me today about when she was born, her kidneys weren't fully developed. And so she said, my mother wouldn't have anything to do with me. Has that affected me? Let's see. Yes.
I mean, that's an easy answer. Yeah.
That's an easy answer, but kidneys represent fear. So her mother must have been, traumatized at some point. I mean, I could go back and on and on. So I can answer everything from a spiritual lens to a psychological lens to both, whatever it happens to be. They often ask me, they want to know, like, what is life? How old are you on the other side? I got that one today. It was a kind of a cute question. You're any age you want to be, but often you come back as the age that you feel good about, the age that you were like just loved. That's often the age.
Well, how many lives do we usually tend to live here, like reincarnated?
That's a damn good question. Some people will say thousands. I don't say that. I just don't think that's accurate. I think we come back every so often to finish up our major contract with this dimension. And I am thinking that I'm just almost done.
We gotta be. If you start, my thing is, right, like, I feel like we're here to work on this stuff, but once you start realizing what this is behind the veil, like, how many more times you come back? I mean,
well, once your conscious starts to raise and you expand, and here's the thing, when I meet somebody, I'll say, oh, how old is that person? And I don't mean in years. Are they in first grade? Are they babies? Are they getting their PhD? Where does that, like a Tom Campbell, come on, that's such an old wise soul. Come on, he's here as an avatar, if you will. He's here to help humanity. There's no doubt in my mind. James Van Praagh here to help humanity. I'd like to think of myself on that scale.
Kellee
Not
White,
anywhere near,
Avatar.
but yeah, there you go. But I mean, those two have been around for a long time, but something along those lines. And so, whenever anybody is, if they are at, say, a younger age, and I'm not talking about the
Sure.
age,
Yeah.
physical age, they'll be back until they learn what they have to learn. They will be back until they learn everything not to do. Like, don't hit, don't throw sand, don't spit, be nice, be good, be kind. It's not all that hard. But for some, I mean, really, and I didn't come from any religious background, but I have to say, Jesus was right. I mean, just be nice, be good, be kind, have compassion, have empathy. He's been screaming that message forever, and that's the truth.
Have you experienced Jesus or the Buddha at all?
I have. I've experienced Jesus a couple of times after my head injury.
What was that like?
Well, the funny thing is, my father is Jewish, and he's passed, and my mother, who's passed also, was Southern Baptist. So that kind of canceled out any religion that I would have had. So I didn't know from anything about anything. And after my head injury, when I was like reeling Pluto and I was very, very ill and probably dying, he appeared right in front of me. And I knew then that I was going to be okay.
Wow.
I knew then I was going to be okay. He smiled and he put this, I don't know, for lack of a better word, smelling salts or something under my nose. And then I said, could you do that again? I actually said that to him, and he out loud, and he did it, a big smile. And about later that day, I came back around again.
Wow. That's
so he exists. Again, I'm not a religious person, don't know anything about it, but I can tell you that he is an incredible highest form of a master that ever walked the earth.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I've talked to other mediums that have had experiences, and it's just powerful, just
powerful stuff. Powerful stuff.
Kellee White on the show. I can't believe this.
Yay!
Very fun. How can people connect with you?
So they can go to my website, kelleewhite.com, KELLEEWHITE, kelleewhite.com, or they can go to my Facebook page at Spiritual Medium Kellee White. They can go to my Instagram, but I don't know. I think it's Spiritual Medium Kellee White. I don't know how to do any of this, but I have a great assistant. And she knows everything.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna follow Kellee White after tonight.
Well, good. Thank you.
Last question. Kind of important. What do you want your legacy to be?
That I helped a lot of people.
I think you're doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really want my legacy to be known as I helped as many people as I possibly could. That's the truth.
It is the truth.
Get them through this.
Get them through it. Definitely. Kellee White. Check her out. Go watch her show. Kellee, thank you so much for joining the show. This has been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Ask Me Anything, featuring spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White.